Another night. As you can see from the thumbnail, I have the LS up on the dyno, and the guys at West Tech were nice enough to let me use their motor, and we're doing a couple of things to it, and we're running the stock camshaft that was in it, and we're comparing that to, right now, I have the truck Norris cam in there. And we got some really, really cool results from the truck Norris cam. I've been on the phone tonight with Brian Tooley, not surprisingly, but it's an interesting test. There's a lot of good information because in addition to running those two camshafts, the stock LM7 camshaft and the Brian Tooley cam, the truck Norris cam, I did a bunch of other tests along the way because we were trying to figure out why the results didn't correlate to, excuse me, to testing that Brian did. And the culprit, if you were, is there's a dramatic difference in the test motors. So we were talking about that and kind of brainstorming and trying to figure out, hey, what do you think this is worth? What do you think this is worth? What do you think this is worth? And it's all good stuff. It's always good to bounce stuff off of different people. And obviously Brian's a good guy. He's pretty knowledgeable, and they've done some testing out there. So it's always good to get another opinion. And I've run the test that we just ran with this particular camshaft. I've run this a few different times. I did a bunch of testing like this when I was doing my Engine Masters motor way back. And it's very important if you're looking for gains in a specific RPM range, which a lot of guys are for this kind of camshaft. They want to know, for instance, everyone's going to want to know what the thing is doing at 2,000 RPM or thereabouts. And so to get power down there, you have to look at different things. You don't have to look at throttle body size. You don't, you don't have to look at. Interestingly enough, one of the things we're focused on are the cylinder heads are used on this particular motor. Brian was particularly concerned with the valve sizes that are in the head. So it's going to be an interesting thing. And I think we might have to revisit this with a little bit different configuration because it's always better. And I'm wondering now, I forgot to ask Brian, if when they were doing their development testing for this camshaft, if they ran it on more than one combination. Because if you do your testing on anything, if you're designing a header or the exhaust or an intake manifold or whatever it is, in this case it's a camshaft, and you only look at what it's doing on one combination, you can then optimize it, obviously, if you keep testing for that particular combination. That's fantastic. That's how we get good racing combinations. That's how they go out and they win and they do well. The thing is, if people are going to be putting this camshaft or an intake manifold or a header or whatever it is on lots of other different kinds of combinations, it's also a good idea to know how they work on those other combinations. Like, what does it do on a 4.8? What does it do on a 6.0? What does it do on yada, 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 all those things. So and it's hard. You can't obviously test them on all combinations. My combination is completely weird, and I'm sure everyone is going to say, "Oh, that's like a terrible combination. You shouldn't use that." But that's what I had, and I think it's important to try it on different things and see how it does. And then that led us to thinking another direction and try other things. So we're going to go in and we'll take a look at some of the data. We'll take a look at the test motor. I'll show you some of the things I tested, and we can kind of, kind of brainstorm a little bit and figure out what's going on. Not surprisingly, it did add good power as we expected it to. But I think actually in this particular case, on this kind of camshaft, guys are more interested in what it does at 2,000 RPM or 2,500 RPM or 3,000 RPM than they are at what it does at 5,500 RPM or 6,000 or 6,500 RPM. I think we all know that with an LS, it's pretty easy to get power out on that end, on the big end. What's cool is trying to find power like low-speed power, and that gets more and more difficult to do. One of the interesting things, and this is something that I found out when I was doing Engine Masters, is that we were looking at power in a specific RPM range. And so when you're looking for that, you have to look, and since we were trying to do, back when I was doing it, we did average power. We did average horsepower and average torque, and I think that's a really good thing over a good range, over a good RPM range, and then they added those two numbers together, and then that puts every bit of emphasis I'll get it, emphasis on average power production, average torque production. It's just as important to have good power down low as it is up top. In fact, you can trade those as long as the trade is in the plus category for that average number. So all of that stuff I think is really cool, and it makes for a good you can argue that it makes for a good street car engine. All of those Engine Masters motors, none of them were street car engines. They were all, at least the winning ones, were all basically dedicated builds to excel in that genre, which doesn't necessarily translate into a thing that you want to put in a car. You know, the idea was, yeah, if we limit it, if we go from 3,000 to 7,000 or whatever the number is, that's more street oriented. We don't want to make 10 or 11 or 12,000 RPM motors. We want to make them what average street strip guys would make, and this is the kind of thing, except that that's not, you wouldn't take some of these, you know, really thin ring packs and, you know, loose rings and stuff, and you wouldn't take that stuff and just go out and put it in your car and drive to New York, and it's not that kind of thing, even though that's kind of the sales pitch on it. But I knew I wouldn't want to do that in the motor that I put together, although the one I put together was much more about, it wasn't about making power at 7,000, because I even used a dual plane on my combination, and I might have been the only one there, because I was the only one that was not smart enough to realize that, hey, you probably shouldn't do that. But the thing is, when you focus on something like with that dual plane, we had it extrude honed twice. We tried different divider sections in it. We tried stacking gas. I mean, I tried all kinds of stuff. And you have to try stuff, because sometimes if you already have it in your head that it's not going to work or it's going to work, you don't know until you actually try it. The dyno will tell you. And the thing that's interesting with that particular deal in the Engine Masters competition was that it might not make more peak power, but it might have made more power at 3,500, and that you might have picked up two average numbers, even though it wouldn't have been a thing that you would pick, because it's down 10 at the top. But it got a little bit better everywhere else, and so the average number, and that's all you care about is that score. So when you're doing Engine Masters, it was really fun. It was exhausting, because it was like 400 or 500 pulls on stuff to hone in on everything that worked, because I couldn't just put one combination together and have it be that level. I'm not that, but luckily I was able to work on it and hone it and you know, get in the finals and stuff, and all that worked out good. It was a lot of fun. But we're going to go in and take a look and see the testing that I did tonight. And I haven't run the sloppy cam yet. All I've run is the sock cam and the Brian Tooley truck Norris cam. But we ran some other cool tests, so we'll take a look at that. Everybody get the like button going. Come on. Chop chop. Everyone wants to chop. Choppy chop. Choposaurus Rex. Chop a lemon ding dong. Chopzilla. Okay, so here is our LS. Fancy truck manifold. Fancy drive-by cable. Truck throttle body. Nothing exciting there. Right now, it has 1 3/4 headers on it. And it has full exhaust, well, full-ish, 3-inch exhaust with mufflers. That's one of the, hands. That's one of the tests that I did, but I also tested this. So we tested, these are 1 7/8 headers, and this is the collector extension that we had on it. See? So the collector extension definitely changes the power curve. It adds a lot of power down low. And what we found out is having it even longer, like this muffler section, improved low speed power even more. It did have an interesting effect somewhere else in the curve though. And it's not, I know that the first guy that says that, oh, that's because these motors need back pressure, I'm probably going to strangle them. But, I'm just kidding, obviously. But the length, and this isn't a flow thing, it's not a restriction thing, it's not a back pressure thing. It's actually a resonance tuning thing, and you can see that it has a decided effect, because here's the thing, is if it was just flow, if all it was doing was improving the exhaust flow, for instance, what we would see is usually more power at the top of the RPM range, kind of like a throttle body does. If we have a throttle body restriction and we put a bigger throttle body on, what typically happens is that we won't get gains down low, but you'll get gains as we go up higher in RPM, because as we go higher in RPM, there's more demand for airflow. So if we have supplied that extra airflow with a bigger throttle body, for instance, we get more power. And exhaust flow is kind of the same thing, so that's what we would expect if we just had a flow increase. The 1 3/4 header, so how many people think that the 1 3/4 headers made more low speed power than the 1 7/8 headers? That's always a good question. So the combination here is this is a 5.7 liter motor. It's a 5.3 block. It's been bored out to 5.7. It has a stock crank. It has forge rods and pistons in it. It also has a set of RHS/mast heads on it that are CNC ported, again, which is way more head than we need. And one of Brian's questions tonight was, what size is the intake valve? And honestly, I don't remember. If Mast really did these heads for him, I'm assuming that the intake valve is probably on the big side. Brian's thinking it's like a 208 or something. When it comes off, which it might come off, we'll measure it. And obviously the truck manifold is not super sporty in terms of power. There's lots better combinations. But when they did the truck Norris testing, they used a 5.3 with a set of 243 heads, obviously the truck cam. They used 1 3/4 somebody's truck headers, full length headers, and full exhaust with mufflers. And so it was more kind of what you would see, probably indicative of what you'd see in a vehicle. Obviously it's not a full vehicle exhaust with cats and tailpipes and all that, but it's more at least simulating what's going on with the full exhaust. And as we saw here, this is a pretty big gain, or pretty big change in power, not a gain. And that's the other interesting thing. You do all of these changes, like, does an 1 7/8 header make more peak power than an 1 3/4 header? I get people that have told me, oh, I get 20 horsepower from an 1 7/8 header. No, you don't. I know, because I've run them on lots and lots and lots of LS motors, and I've never seen that kind of gain going from an 1 3/4 to an 1 7/8, unless possibly it was on a really, really high horsepower deal. So, we can make a run if you guys want to do that. We can do that, and we'll go in and take a look. We can take a look at some of the data inside, take a look at some of the tests. This is really pretty cool. What's going on? Okay. Get you guys all set up here. Get our screen here. Raise you up. Okay, so we have and I'm going to be obviously doing a full video on this as well too, so we'll just talk about this a little bit. Here, get the angle here. This is our stock LM7 camshaft in our, as described, modified 5.7 liter iron block 5.3 big bore motor. Made a little over 400 horsepower, 401, and 431 or 32 foot-pounds of torque, as you can see here. We started the load at 2100 RPM. Here's what happened when we put the truck Norris cam in. So we picked up about 70 horsepower, so it's pretty good. Picked up quite a bit of torque. About 31 or 32 foot-pounds measured peak to peak. But this is the area that everyone's going to be interested in. This is the one I was talking to Brian about. I sent him over a photo of this. And he said, it doesn't do that when we test it. And I said, okay, well, you know, obviously then they start asking you, well, what's the airfield there? What's the timing there? Well, what it is there is it's correct. I've done this a few times. Because that's not a tune problem. I haven't done this 100 times. That's not a tune problem. That's actually what's going on. And here are some of the things that we did to adjust this. So this is with the 1 7/8 header and a collector extension. So what we did, and when I say we, I mean me. So this is what we did. We put a set of 1 3/4. These are QTP headers, and that's what's on there now. Those are the ones for the, I think that they might be for a Corvette chassis. And you can see they picked up pretty good low-speed power compared to the 1 7/8 with the same, and I used the same collector extension on both of these. So you can see it didn't have a big effect elsewhere, but it did have a little bit. the 1 3/4 actually made a little bit more peak torque. It made a little bit less very peak power than, and we're talking about not very much here. Let's see, 65 and 60. So like we're talking like 3 horsepower there. And 61, 65, and 4 foot-pounds of torque. So those are the differences there. But big differences here. This is quite a bit. This is the interesting area. So the 1 3/4 headers were definitely better there. But the interesting thing is when I loaded them in, the 1 7/8 headers are actually better on the load in. And had we pulled this thing down to 1800 or something like that, there's a possibility that the 1 7/8 headers might have actually been a little bit better way down low compared to the 1 3/4 headers. But you can see in this area, the 1 3/4 definitely better, and then basically identical all the way out. We got a little bit of a change here, and then a little bit of a change out here. But one thing that's not there, the 1 7/8 headers don't make 15 or 20 horsepower more than the 1 3/4 headers. And there's nothing special about these headers. They're not custom. They're not double throwdown. You know, they're just headers. But I wasn't done there. What I did, we still had the open exhaust with that short collector extension that I showed you. So then what I did was I went ahead and put the long extension on there. It's about 40 inches, I think, with the muffler. And here's what happened when we added the muffler. We picked up even more torque. But you can see it had an effect elsewhere on the curve. So the blue is now the muffler. So the muffler and the 1 3/4 header now is making, it made even more torque than having the 1 7/8 and open header. So we're way up in torque down low. The interesting thing is though, the long tube and the muffler started losing a little power here in this middle part from 3,500 to 4,500. Again, that's not a flow rate problem. That's a frequency thing. And then kind of the same as the regular 1 3/4 and open exhaust, kind of all the rest of the way out. Kind of had no effect out there, but here, big frequency changes from the change of length in the exhaust. So very, very cool stuff. And this is why you have to test things and why you have to search to find out what's actually working. I mean, the only way to figure that stuff out is to actually do it. And that's especially true. I'm going to raise this up a little bit. And then I'm going to have to change my mic a little bit because I think I'm going to have to plug this thing in so I don't run out of juice in the middle of my discussion. Well, let's see here. Okay, so the mic quality is going to change a little. There we go. There you go. Okay, so the interesting thing is that the only way to figure that out would be to actually test it. I don't know, because you see a variation in, like, for instance, when we added the muffler and long extension, you might not see a difference at the track because you have more torque here, but then you have less here. So, and I could look at the average number because the dyno will calculate average stuff. You might see that there's just a net zero change because you had a gain and a loss. You wouldn't see that at the track, but you see that on the dyno. And then if what you were most interested in was from 2,000 to 3,500, then you'd look at it and go, oh yeah, that by doing that, that's kind of a win. Or that, you know, maybe Richard needs to test with full exhaust more often. You know, we could go that route too. But this is why I like testing. This is why I like testing things like that and little things. Obviously, you know, doing cams and heads and blowers and turbos, that's all fantastic. Like putting I'm still very excited on a high from doing the 3800 with the turbo. So I have that video coming up. I also, if you guys, I'm sure you guys have all seen it by now, I put the intake manifold test up on the 3800, running the different runner lengths and then pulling the cover plate off the. Very, very fun, by the way. We did that on the FR500 variable runner intake manifold too. We pulled the lid off of it, which was kind of cool to make it into an IR deal. And I also did that on The performance design, the carbon TR intake manifold, we pulled the lid off of that and ran that as just an open IR deal, and it did the same kind of thing. It definitely picked up power, and it was kind of cool. So those kinds of things are fun. Now I'm going to take this thing apart and put in the other camshafts. The problem with this is that I did not do these same header things. I only ran the stock camshaft with the 1 7/8 headers. So I don't know if we'll see the same kind of effect with the stock cam timing. We might not, but the only way to do that is go back and put the stock camshaft in and run those header tests on that too to find out for sure what's going on. I think it's fairly obvious that the truck Norris cam is a lot better than the stock cam, which I think we kind of expected. It worked very well. If you guys like, we can I can turn it on and we can make a run and you know we can make all the funny noises. Wah, wah, wah. So let me know what you guys thought about the intake manifold test, because the intake manifold test, I really like induction systems. I like induction theory, and I like demonstrating what happens when we do different runner lengths and stuff. Just like with headers, like we saw, we can see this kind of stuff sometimes with primary length change as well, and definitely different, obviously collector extensions as we're seeing here, but different collector designs as well. We can see a lot of these kinds of like weird frequency changes, and that's why I wanted to demonstrate. The 3800 guys have been, a lot of those guys have been doing this stuff for a long time. Obviously, the 3800 supercharged motor is not new. It's been around for a long time, but a lot of those guys have already run these things with turbos. But for a lot of guys, I just want to demonstrate to them what they're actually doing, because when I went searching for dyno information on that particular motor, just like when I went searching for dyno information at the peak power on that thing was 63 or 6400. Like when I went searching for power or for dyno information on the 2.2 liter Chrysler engine or the 2.5 liter turbo Chrysler engine, there was just really nothing much available. There were a few things out there where guys made runs. Oh, hey, this guy made 500 horsepower at the tire, or 400 or 300 or 200 or 600, whatever the number was, but not like actual back-to-back tests where, hey, this one-piece manifold on the 2.2 liter does this two-piece does this log one does this turbo does this in relation to this other turbo, this is the response rate, all of that stuff. Where did the truck Norris make peak power? It's still making basically the same power, 469, 468.5, 468.6. All of those are at like 6,000, 61, 6,200. So, you know, good times, good times. Why did it's always no matter. Here's the thing I should have told Brian that because he was concerned about the cylinder head, that now I need to make a wrong head shirt or the wrong intake or whatever it is. Whatever I ran is definitely the wrong thing. It doesn't really make any difference if I ran the truck manifold or the Trailblazer SS. That it's going to make more power in both conditions. Oh, so you guys want to make some noise? Okay, well we can make a run. We can make a pole ski. Let me get it all turned on. And I said, yeah. Get it started and warmed up. The nice thing about running the mufflers too is just like nice and quiet. Nice and like whisper mode. Bruh! What? Visor dropped the first video with the turbo Chrysler head? Does it show airflow? I haven't even seen it. David hasn't even called me. What's up? Beefcake. So in case people are wondering, hey Richard, what kind of fuel are you running? Well, we're running 91 octane from California, and hey, what kind of timing are you running? Well, it starts out at 24 degrees down at 2,000 RPM, and goes up to 28 and a half, I think, at the top. This didn't seem to be, the mufflers are MagnaFlows, 3-inch MagnaFlows. They seem to work pretty well. I haven't tested the sloppy cam yet. Would a log exhaust drop torque? Yes, from compared to long tube headers, definitely. David Visor installing B303 cams? Okay, do you guys want to be able to see? You guys got a good view there? Let's see. How about that now? Okay. Sounds so good. She's a good little runner. You have a your injector duty cycle is 180% at 7,000 RPM. I think that there's a problem. Yeah, it sounds good. I like running motors with mufflers because it's it's so much nicer. The best cam goes in next. Right away. I forgot how nice it was, how easy it is to change camshafts in these. It's been a little while since I did an LS cam swap. Yeah, the neighbors are always happy when you have mufflers. Yeah, the intake theory is very cool. What's the basic specs of the combo? It's a 5.7. I don't think it's a flat top piston. I think it's a dish piston. It's got a set of good ported heads on it. It's got a truck intake manifold, and it's got the truck Norris cam on it. I think the quickest camshaft we did was in the 25 or 6 minute range from running to running. The maximum RPM was, I think, 6,300 is what the dyno has. Is what the dyno is set at. It's The Trek Norris cam will work good in an LQ4 with 862s. Admiral, can you test 25% isopropyl alcohol versus 25% ethanol? Am I going to test that on this motor, on an NA motor? You don't like swapping cams if it's a Ford FE? I've never run an FE. Keenan, yeah, you can email a question. I've never tested the first TPI. I kind of want to, though. Touch the turbo. It was hard. It was really hard after seeing how well the thing responded. Whenever I do turbo stuff, I always look for railroad tracks. That's what I call it when we run the dyno, and you go up 2 pounds and it does this, and go up 2 pounds and it does this, and you keep going up 2 pounds and it keeps doing that. Where I stopped, I thought, well, how many more railroad tracks do we have? Keeps going up like that. That's gonna be good. My email should be should be on my channel, and I put it in almost every. It's in the comment sections of almost every video. If you take a look at the other videos. I haven't compared these to the truck cams. This cam will work fine with a turbo. The truck Norris cam will work fine with 6-liter and 317 heads. None of that combination makes any difference. Dan, you work at BART? My kids, that's my kids, their favorite thing about when we go on vacation, like if we go to Hawaii or we go to Mexico or whatever, they get to ride on the BART train. They loved it. Truck Norris's BTR 3 cam. I would put a Truck Norris in over a stage 3 truck cam. The power gains versus a I don't know versus an LQ4 cam. I wish I was there to help swap the cam. So cam swaps are pretty easy. Especially after the first one takes the longest amount of time, and now even that doesn't take very long, but I'm not rushing every time to try to break a record. I would set things up differently. I actually like the way the guys at Brian Tooley have theirs set up. They actually put a little skim notch on their balancer and have a 2-piece timing cover and then have separate watering, so they don't have to take all the stuff apart that I take apart. They just have to take the cover plate off and they can swap cams out really, really fast. Faster than I'm able to do it here because I got to take the balancer and all that stuff off. And they don't do any of that, and it's really a good setup. I think the only way to make that better is get rid of that truck dampener and just put a smaller ATI on there so that when you pull the camshaft out, so that it misses the dampener altogether. Because I think I remember ATI making a small one that would get out of the way so that you could do that. But that's a really good setup. James and Brian, whoever designed that, that's kind of cool. I always wanted to separate we have a remote Mizir that we run on, that they run on stuff that has a, for boats and things like that. And it has 2 outlets, and I always wanted to get the, I think Don has those adapters to bolt on where the factory water pump bolts on. He has those with just standoffs on them, so that you can just run hoses to those, and then you don't have to take off, you don't have to deal with the water at all. Because if you have 2 lines going to it, then all you have to do is, for me, take the dampener front cover off, and then if you do what the guys at Brian Tooley did, which is awesome, if you can just if you have a 2-piece one, you can just take that off. I like seeing the lower cam sprocket to line it up, but if you keep it in the same spot, you know where to put the cam sprocket, and those guys are sharp too, so they know what to do. Any thoughts on low-speed power gain or loss on a stock 4.8? I think that there has to be low-speed power drop on a 4.8 compared to a stock cam. Are you ever concerned with piston-to-wall clearance on your turbos? Not, because I don't build a lot of dedicated motors for turbos. Most of the ones that I run come from the wrecking yard, so the piston to wall clearance is whatever the piston to wall clearance is. With the heads you used on this, compare close to a PRC 2.5, 5.3 liter. I don't know. I just don't know what these are. And if they were done by Mast, I don't know which ones they are. Everything that I've run from them, their cathedral sport stuff, has always worked really well. I just don't know how these compare to stuff that I've tested. So I just don't have a real good feel for it. I know that when we use these heads on a buildup that I did on a 5.7, with a tunnel ram and a big cam and everything, it made really good power. I mean, these are easily capable of doing 600 horsepower. The best race motors come from the wrecking yard. For me, they do. I mean, I'm really happy with that 3800 because it's unopened. A lot of guys like to say that they're unopened. It's unopened, just meaning that I haven't put ring gap in it yet. LT1 power adders, or L83, L86, LT1, the Gen 5 stuff, that's coming later on. On the big bang motors, you use stock injectors. You can't use stock injectors on any kind of turbo thing. They don't have enough flow. A stock injector on a truck engine is like a 21 or 24 pounder. That will support like less than 400 horsepower and even less under boost. You need to have injectors. You need to have enough fuel flow to support the desired power level. 671 on LS, I've done that. I have a video up on that. Yeah, on the big bang motor, we couldn't even load in at the lowest RPM point with a stock injector. No, I've had I had a 600 engine, a GSXR, a 500 Interceptor, a CL100. I currently have a DT125. I've had a DT100. I like bikes. I haven't ridden one in a while. Would this cam work better on a 4.8? It's going to add power to both of them compared to the stock cams. I think it's you might lose a little bit of low speed on the 48, on the 4.8. You're not going to lose anything on the 6 liter. Yeah, the 500 Interceptor was the small one, but it was really good. I loved it. It was a lot more comfortable than the Ninja was. It wasn't nearly as fast, and neither one of them were as fast as the GSXR. Decapped injectors work, but you have to, when you do 8 of them, you have to, and we've talked about this a whole bunch of times, you have to do a whole bunch of them because you won't get them to match. Get that Fox body running. I need to go pick up my Fox body. It's out in Roswell. You do need to replace the springs for a truck Norris cam. Although, well, you might not need to replace them if you have LS3 springs, because I think that's a 553 lift cam. A VFR 750, nice. Come on, Tim, get out there. Think B303. Yeah, it's in Roswell because it's getting alien technology. The VMAX was amazing. Yeah, come on, GT4. if I have time, I'm going to do a 5-liter test. I'm going to run a bunch of the Cobra style intake manifolds. The Nova's still sitting right now. What's the weirdest engine adapter? I think that they have an adapter. I think they ran a Jaguar here. And I know that they also ran, they ran Jay Leno's Lotus motor here, I think, too. Yeah, for sub 700 horsepower, 80 pounds are fine. Gary, Vortec or ProCharger, they both make good stuff. What might be your deciding factor is which one of them has the thing in stock. ProCharger's been pretty good about that, and I really like a lot of their blowers. Their D1SC would be good in that range. An F1A94 I really like if you want to go beyond that. Stock 5.3 injectors with a truck Norris cam probably would be okay, because if you're getting 60 or 70, I'd have to look and see. I'd have to ask Eric or Ish and find out what the duty cycle is on a stock cam. Do you remember? Sorry to ask, but do you remember what the Ford Lightning M112 puts out for boost? It depends on what pulley you run. I don't think it was very high stock though. Do you think it would be a good idea to increase stock piston to valve clearance or piston to wall clearance? I don't think that that's necessary for a stock piston because you don't have the same growth that you have on a forged piston. Uh-oh. Charles got put out of the friend zone. Must have been an interesting experience. Over 200 in the Civic. Actually, it's very comfortable in the Civic. It was all you're looking at was I'm just kind of staring at the tack. You just go through the gears and part throttle, and then fourth gear you can finally go full throttle and then shift into fifth, and then all you're doing is just kind of, because there's not very much sensation of speed. I mean, you can kind of tell that you're going fast, but you're out in the middle of this flat expanse that goes on forever, and there's no trees or people or cars or anything that you're going by. Every once in a while, there's a mile marker cone. It goes by pretty good at 227. But all I'm looking at is like, I'm just wanting the tack to go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, because that means you're going faster and faster. And so you're just looking for that to happen. And then I'm also watching we had an Innovate air fuel gauge in there, and I'm watching the boost gauge, and the temperature gauge wasn't really an issue, but I would keep an eye on that. I didn't have an oil pressure gauge in it, I don't think, in the Civic. So I'm just kind of glancing around at those things and just, feeling your way through it. I think the VMAX was back in the day. I think that was a 10 or a 9-second bike, even a stock one. We didn't have, Dan, that's an interesting thing. A lot of guys talk about how much tire slip they have, but in our data logging, the front-wheel drive car had very little. When did you drive a land speed Civic? I think we set the records in 2008. And then I ended up selling the car, and they've gone out and set 3 more records. What happened to the truck Norris 540? I was thinking that the Lightning was like 8 or 9 pounds. The Civic is actually nice at that speed. The nice thing about having a front-wheel drive car on the Salt is the back end doesn't try to pass the front end. It just stays back there and does what it's supposed to do. Joining in late. Yeah, we already ran the Norris cam, but I haven't put the sloppy cam in yet. On a Whipple 5.3, would the torque cam be better than the truck Norris cam? No, the cam that makes more power NA is going to make more power with that blower. I know, it is time to get back on the Salt. I have something that I want to do. I have run Brodix heads on the small block Ford. If you take a look at the video they have up on I don't remember whether it's the first one or the second one or the third one, but I did test Brodix heads on the Ford. I have videos up on going from the engine dyno to the chassis dyno. Wah, wah, wah. When the car wanted to spin at Bonneville, that was really exciting. that will get your attention. I was really thankful for a parachute. What increase would we expect to see with the Trailblazer SS? As let's see, we're at 470 horsepower. I think 15 or 16 maybe. What's the most power you've seen from just ported heads? Well, a lot. When I tested Brian Tooley's way back, these might have even been the first ported heads that I tested, or at least the first ported LS heads that we tested. We ran, when he owned Total Engine Airflow, we did a set of ported 706 heads, and I think that they picked up like 55 or 60 horsepower. It was a lot. Why is your LS2 taking so long? I don't know. Colorado's in the house. Oh, you're porting your Magnum heads. Let me know how they do. I'm excited about getting. I might bring the Magnum home with me so I can take it apart in my garage. Any interest in running the Summit Stage 1 turbo cam? I think it would be a good cam. I ran 2 Summit cams when I did the Sloppy Stage 2 versus the World. Was one of those that Ghost cam? Yes, you could run this truck manifold under boost, a lot of boost, or the Trailblazer SS, either one. Engine shops there are delays in getting parts, definitely for everybody, not just engine shops. So you want to do a 6-liter bored out so that it's a 6.2, just don't try to run boost on it. Australia's in the house. The boys down under. Do you know any of the Hemsworths by any chance? Everybody in Australia hangs out together, right? What do you think about the LQ4 with 241 heads in this cam? It will work good. It works good in any combination. What heads would you run with the Norris cam? It doesn't matter. The camshaft is not cylinder head specific. It will work with a 706 head, a 317 head. The head is going to determine how much power you make because there's going to be a difference in the power output offered by the head that has nothing to do with the camshaft. The camshaft's going to work with all of the heads. You can run it with a rec port head. You can run it with a cathedral port head. You run it with a small block Chevy head. Well, you can't do that one, but the other ones you can. Mighty Car Mods is in the house. I do like Mighty Car Mods is awesome. I'm not even the prince of horsepower. I'm more like the court jester. When are you going to test the turbo on this cam? I won't test it on this motor, but we might be doing that later on. Will nitrous be fine going to it? You have much thinner cylinder walls when you're boring it out that far. So I wouldn't do that with power adders. I would rather you should be better off just taking a 6.0, going 30 over, and then adding more nitrous to it. I mean, you might get to the same place. The 243 makes more power than the 241. That video's up. I'm pointing like right at that video, right? Like it's right over here in the corner. 68 miles an hour Bonneville, nice. Those guys are really serious about the Bonneville stuff that they do in those Volkswagen classes. It's kind of cool. I would like to test the first manifold. I just don't have one, and I haven't run a tune port motor in quite a while. Yes, the court jester. Thank you guys for watching. When are you going to do the 300 Ford? That's on the list. Nice. That's a score on the 5.3 liter with the BTR cam already in it. Have you ever built or tested a 2.3 liter turbo SVO motor? Yes, I did a lot of testing way back in the day. We did it all in the chassis dyno with Dave Hanrahan from Tiny Avenger. I don't think I've run a Tick performance cam. I might have one of theirs in the Sloppy Stage 2 setup versus the World. The king of horsepower has got to be somebody like Kazi or Kenny Deltweiler or one of those guys. Yes, a 3.3 liter turbo Porsche engine in a bus. I remember seeing a write-up on one of those years and years ago, and I thought that it was the coolest thing in the world. Although now I don't think I would put that motor in there because they're about $1 bajillion. Although now a multi-window bus is $1 bajillion too. But I would put something else in there, but it would be maybe a Subaru engine, and there would be a lot cheaper way to go. Oh, and for those guys that are keeping score, I didn't tell you that when I put this truck Norris cam in, when I took the stock cam out and put the truck Norris cam in, I didn't change the push rods because everybody talks about changing the base circle of the cam or whatever. And this truck Norris cam had a half turn of lifter preload. Now somebody's going to ask me how much preload the stock cam had, and I can't answer that because I don't remember testing it. Your favorite Street Outlaws cast member? I wish they're doing no prep stuff, and I know that the whole thing had to evolve. I really like the older stuff, like most people when they were really kind of street cars. That was cool. I know what the whole premise is, and I watched it. I really liked it. I'm not as big a fan of watching no prep racing as I am of watching the chaos that was going on with the list racing and that kind of stuff. I thought that was kind of a cool deal. Big Chief is still street. I think that those guys are, I mean, Farm Truck and Asian definitely are. Yeah, those guys are cool. I think Chad might know those guys. Yeah, the no prep is, it's definitely popular. If you look at the stands and stuff, it's awesome that many people are going to watch, and there's a lot of really good racing. Just the TV show is not, I think it's a different kind of TV show that caters to that. The truck Norris cam will work well with nitrous like every other cam. What kind of engine are you looking for? Go to the wrecking yard and get it. What do you have as a project? I have lots of engine projects. That's primarily what I do. Although I do have the Nova, and I have a 5-liter Mustang too. I have an original owner 5-liter Mustang. You can have a turbo tow rig. Just have a small camshaft and a small turbo. I want to see rotary testing. I would love to have a rotary on the engine dyno. GPI SS4 versus BTR Stage 4. I would be surprised if Brian and the guys at GPI haven't tested that already. The Omni needs work too. The Omni engine, the 2.2 is almost done. I need to take the head back off of I just stuck it back on there so I could lift it up. I need to take the damaged head off the 2.5, and I have another head here that I forgot to give to the guys when they picked up the engine to go down to L&R. I need to get that head down there so we can get that stuff done. The truck Norris cam will work fine in a Corvette. I don't have any data on the GPI cam. I don't think I've ever tested it. With the 3.8 with the turbo and the Nova, that thing's making a lot of power. The place to find really good deals is not really going to be on Facebook or Marketplace. You might find some on Marketplace, but Craigslist usually is the go-to place. Yeah, a rotary stuff. I remember racing my Mustang in showroom stock. That's why I bought the car, to go SCCA showroom stock racing back in November of '87, and took it out to go showroom stock racing. And I was racing on the track when the IT cars were on there, and the rotary IT cars were just they were tremendously loud, because my car still had the stock mufflers and cats and all that stuff on it. Oh, you're gonna buy one and import it, I see. This cam for towing with an LQ4. This cam, this Truck Norris cam should work well. A stage one, the one that I've always is either the torque cam or the stage one truck cam is kind of the recommendation. The low shock cams for a 9.8 deck height big block Chevy, I'm probably not the guy to ask about that. Do I think that the LSA would cause a loss in fuel mileage? I don't think so. That's not the thing that you need to focus on. So you're gonna put the Truck Norris cam in your Escalade. That should work good. Yeah, the Boosted Boys have one too. They have a J series, right? And my buddy, I just talked to my buddy Jimmy today with his NSX is swapped with one, and it's doing good. So hopefully he should be on the dyno for too long. Yeah, they do like big throttle bodies. The M90 definitely needs a big throttle body. Although it really liked boost too. Yes, I really like the RX-3s. I think that those are cool little cars. Not a good choice for Bonneville. It's a very short wheelbase. Somebody mentioned something about the RX-8. I'm actually not a fan of that car. I really like the Gen 3 RX-7s. Not a fan of the RX-8. I like the I think it's the first and second gen RX-7s, and then the next version I didn't like as much. Yes, Truck Norris cam with a 4.8 with a manual trans would be a good choice. 6-liter with 706 heads and a Trailblazer SS. The Trailblazer SS might make a little bit less low-speed power than the truck does. I kind of would like to do that test now down at 2,000 RPM. What was the horsepower rating on this combo? $13B. I don't have one. I haven't seen one. I need the rotary guy to hit me up. Oh, because of the meme factor. There you go. Yes, you can put the Norris cam on an LQ4 with 706 heads. It will work. It will work with any combination. What's the best heads to replace the iron heads? If you're putting a stock head on it and you want the most power, the most powerful stock head would be a rec port head, an 821 or an 823. If you want to put a different cathedral port head on there, then basically you're replacing an iron 317. Put a 243 head on there. So were all the 317 heads that you took to the machine shop, were they all cracked? I haven't run the best cam yet, only the Truck Norris cam so far. The question about single versus twin turbo is just packaging. There's no factory head that's going to be better than your 862 head that's on your 5.3. Not appreciably. You have to go to a ported head or an aftermarket head. Twins are always better. All the 317s were cracked between the valves? Wow. I don't think I've seen a lot of cracked 317 heads. I like the RX3s, the RX7s dominated IMSA GTU. They won like 15 years in a row or something. RX3s would have been way, way back. They're really cool though. What throttle body did I have on this test motor? It's a stock throttle body on the truck. How much does the truck Norris cam cost? I don't know what the price is. I pre-checked your forged pistons for a street strip 489. Either one of those will work for a 6,000 RPM motor, honestly. What's your dream meme car build? I don't know. What grade material bolts are best for hot side bolt replacement? Oh. I use whatever I have handy, but somebody else may have a metallurgy answer to that. I don't know. I would think stainless would crack, so maybe the grade 8 stuff. The truck Norris cam having the same duration specs as another cam doesn't make it anywhere the same as another cam. LS9 or Cometic head gaskets. I don't think I've run Cometics on. I may have run Cometics once or twice on an LS way back. We used Felpro, or we ran LS9 on the Big Bang motor, and it, at 1500 it was fine. Rotary Suzuki Samurai. I think that didn't Freiberger, didn't they put a 440 in one of those? Yeah, they're both, the MLS and LS9 or the Cometic and LS9 are both Cometic, or you'll get it right one of these times, are both MLS gaskets. A 232, 234 cam, is it streetable? It's big. And I don't know what size motor you're putting it in. Hopefully not a 4.8 or a 5.3. I don't know about lifter brands. The LS9 seems to be the answer to stuff, but I just don't know. Some guys swear by Morels. High lift Johnsons for flat tap lifters. So do you still like the stage 1 truck cam over the new truck Norris? I don't know. I'd have to look, and I don't really have a way to compare them. I didn't never run them on the same engine. Yeah, Brian Tooley is a fantastic guy. He's the real deal. It made 469 or 470 or something. It was up about 70 over the stock cam. I do have a Facebook and Instagram. So make sure, so everybody out there, make sure you follow me on Facebook and Instagram. What you're going to see are promotions for all of these videos. 232, 234. I'd like to see more of a split, but that will work too. Have I ever thought about testing the V12? The heads that you should put on a 4065 6-liter are Recport heads if you want to make power with it. Or any kind of aftermarket cathedral head would work good too. Is OBD tuning worth messing with? Or I think guys get good power out of stock stuff if you can tune it. Because it's not magic, it's just timing and air fuel. Yeah, we got some likes. Yeah, everybody remembers a small watch every firing order. What are reels? See, I'm new. Two more minutes. Ding, ding, ding. The 2-minute call. It's official. Yep, the Truck Norris cam on this motor made 470. 230, 240 on an LS6, that works good. That's big. Countdown to liftoff. Chop, chop, because I got to go swap another cam. It's after 8, 20 after 8. Or that's what that clock is showing, which I know is wrong. When will you test an LQ4 with anything but 317 heads? Almost every 6-liter that I've run has not had 317 heads on it. This is not a 6-liter, it's a 5.7. I don't know if we've run Howard's cams. Watch you swap the cam. Yeah, East Coast has got to be pretty late back there, right? I do lots of work on 4-cylinders. I did 3 books on Hondas and 1 on the Ford Focus. I've done lots of 4-cylinder stuff. Set lots of records with 4-cylinder stuff. Chevy Sprint Turbo, actually technically that's a 3-cylinder. Yeah, I know there would be people sitting there and watch. I was surprised, and I have to get going, but so one quick story. Chad was telling me that they were doing their live feed. I think that they were doing their 24-hour Camaro build or 48-hour Camaro build, and so they had the thing on all the time. And some of it was just like him sleeping. But there were people watching him sleep, which I thought it's a little creepy when they're watching you sleep. But that's dedication too, so that's kind of awesome. I know. The turbocharged Focus was a lot of fun to drive around. What's the best 5.7 cam? You have to wait till Matt comes out with another best cam. Yeah, 137265548. 5-liter Ford. I did set records with the Sprint. Okay, guys, I gotta go. I have to go swap cams. Come on. You gotta leave me alone. Thanks for watching, guys. We had a lot of guys here. It was a great time. The next one I do probably will have the best cam in it. We'll be able to see that, but I'm going to do a big video on all of that. Obviously, we saw some really cool stuff. The differences in power offered by different primary length headers, different collector lengths with mufflers, and all kinds of cool stuff. But that's why you come here, right? Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you all tomorrow.